This winter, my students and I explored the human journey through storytelling. Together, we discovered story, perspective, character, and audience in order to understand how people live their lives today. Thanks for checking out the video. My name is Irwin, and I'm a high school teacher in Pennsylvania. It's hard to believe that I've already been working for over a decade, but I love my job, and the time's moved more quickly than I would like to admit. I teach a course that helps students learn reading comprehension and testing strategies. My students range from a wide variety of backgrounds. Some speak more than one language, some of my students have learning disabilities, and some really love to read, while others haven't picked up a book in years. The National Geographic course refined my pedagogy, which resulted in students who were more engaged and more invested in the learning process, and I'm proud of their effort and all of the progress that they've made this year. Here's a few highlights. Each week, to build background knowledge, my students learn about a new concept. They read an article about that topic and then answer 5 reading comprehension questions based on the article. Mostly, the data from these sessions has not been ideal. I even stopped teaching these lessons in December and January because I didn't feel like the students were learning enough. So when I found the Greek and Latin word parts document from National Geographic's How Scientists Name Things activity, I was excited to try another rendition of these lessons. Taking this course helped me to reset and reconfigure the structure of these failing lessons in a way that inspired students to succeed. The National Geographic Learning Framework states that an explorer is a storyteller, communicating experiences and ideas effectively through language and media. An explorer has literacy skills. In this unit, my students had a chance to tell their own stories while they built background knowledge on 2 things, word parts and blizzards. Each student imagined their own newly discovered creature using the word parts list from National Geographic. I watched as students made an extremely creative stories. One creature had a tail that shielded bullets. Another one pushed its antagonist into an oncoming avalanche. Each student read their stories to the class, and the class got to vote on which character seemed the most likely to survive a blizzard. If there was a hole in the students' logic, the class found it. And I thought this was a good lesson on communication for them, since the feedback was immediate and they had to think about how to craft the story of their character in such a way that it would appeal to their audience. Ecological Perspective. While this lesson was fun and obviously built literacy skills, it also gave students an opportunity to view the world through a new perspective, an ecological lens. They learned that scientists often name animals based on how they are observed interacting with their natural environment. At one point, we discussed the root meaning of amphi, duality or 2 worlds, and bio, meaning life. Students already knew that amphibians, like frogs, could live both in water and on land. They split their time between those 2 spaces, but we explicitly discussed the root of the word amphibian so they would understand that animal names tend to be descriptive and meaningful, not just random. When students scoured the word parts list to design their own creatures, they included segments like Nyko, which means claw, and raptor, meaning thief. One student's character was able to use its claws to dig a hole under the snow to keep it warm, using snow as insulation, while another student created a character that had the ability to steal heat from the sun to keep it alive during the storm. In addition to enjoying the activity, they actually learned more. The students' scores on the 5 reading comprehension questions in this lesson far exceeded their scores in previous lessons. Before I started using National Geographic resources to plan these building background knowledge lessons, the students' average score was 3.29 out of 5. But now, their average score has jumped by 20% to 4.27 out of 5. I was impressed that such a small change could have such a significant impact. Now my students are curious about their lessons and they are much more invested in the learning process. Curiosity, political perspective, and local level.
You have to be curious, you have to ask questions, and you have to be interested in the answers.
In another life, my colleague Beth Levam worked as an Associated Press reporter in our home state of Pennsylvania. Another activity my students and I enjoyed together was when she provided a capstone presentation after a week of digging through our local newspaper for connections to our vocabulary terms. Since her career focused on political events, she was able to expand my students' political perspective by sharing a lot of stories that they could connect to on a local level. Through these stories, they learned how local politics operate in our state, and they learned about the human journey on a local level. I enjoyed hearing their questions and seeing them actively listening as she invoked their curiosity and informed them simultaneously. She read through one of her pieces to show students how well-crafted writing can make for a compelling story, even in nonfiction news articles. While reading through her article, students identified key lines that piqued their curiosity, and Beth explained how she crafted each of those lines to engage the reader. Beth shared one of her favorite quotes with us during her presentation. She said that easy reading is the hardest to write, and I agree. As an educator, engaging lessons are the hardest to plan. Using story to explore the human journey and tying in so many other elements from the National Geographic Learning Framework this semester was not easy, but it was worth it.
When we do classroom discussions, it helps me because I feel like I can listen to people's ideas better.
The lessons we learned in class helped me explain more with bigger words.
I liked when Miss LeBaron came in to talk about her job. It's interesting to learn what happens to people every day.
When the news reporter was here, she talked about topics that I didn't even know about until that day, and it made me more curious about what other topics there were around the world.
We learned about the different types of writing when the reporter came in. She basically said that she tried to make her news stories more interesting so people wouldn't just skim over it. This made me more curious because it made me think more about what we're doing in class.